He built one of the greatest temples the ancient world had ever seen. And in his final days, he locked every noble in the kingdom inside a stadium. With one order: kill them all the moment I die. So the kingdom would have no choice but to mourn. This is not fiction. This is Herod the Great. And I promise you, no screenwriter would dare make this up. Before we talk about what he became, you need to understand what he built. Herod didn't inherit power. He clawed his way to it. Aqueducts, fortresses, entire cities built from nothing. His crown jewel, the temple in Jerusalem, was so massive, so expensive, that historians still argue about what it actually cost. But here's what nobody tells you about Herod. Everything he built, he also destroyed. And it always started with the people closest to him. Before leaving for war, Herod called his most trusted man and gave him one private instruction: if I die on that battlefield, kill my wife. Not out of hatred, out of obsession. He couldn't stand the thought of another man having her. But here's what I need you to understand: this wasn't impulsive. He did it twice. 2 different trips, 2 different men, the same exact order, and both of them made the same mistake. They told her. Both were executed when he returned. 2 men chose her over him. What does that tell you about the kind of king he really was? And then he did something that still doesn't have a rational explanation. Inside his palace, he built 3 towers. One for his brother, one for his closest friend, the tallest, the most beautiful of the 3. He named Marianne after the woman he was about to destroy. He built a monument to her, inside the same walls where he signed her death warrant. I've read a lot of history. I still don't know what to call that. Guilt? Obsession? Love? Tell me in the comments. After her execution, Herod didn't bury her. He preserved her body, in honey, for 7 years. The man who chose control over love couldn't let go of what he had chosen to lose. Does that make him a monster, or just a broken man? But before I tell you about the portrait, I need you to know something. In Herod's world, love was always secondary to power. Always. The person who started all of this wasn't Herod. It was a woman who was trying to save her daughter, and ended up destroying her instead. Alexandra, desperate to place her children under Roman protection, sent portraits of Marianne and her son to Mark Antony, the most powerful man in the Eastern Empire, hoping he would invite them to his court, out of Herod's reach. Antony saw the portraits, and didn't call them. But Herod found out. A portrait meant to protect Marianne became one more reason for him to doubt her. One decision, made by her mother, started a chain of deaths that lasted decades. But there was someone Herod could never control, and it wasn't Marianne. It was Cleopatra. She took his most valuable territories, not with armies, with the man Herod needed to survive. Herod ended up paying rent on his own land, and never said a word about it publicly. Was that wisdom, or just fear? When Marianne was put on trial, her own mother stood up in that room and testified against her, publicly, with Marianne present, to save herself. It didn't work. Herod executed her anyway, shortly after. Was Alexandra the most cowardly person in this story? Or just the most honest about what survival costs? What would you have done in her place? One witness, her own eunuch, under questioning. He said 7 words: "The queen is displeased with the king." No plot, no evidence, just, she was unhappy. That was the case, that was enough. 7 words, 1 life, 1 sentence, spoken by a servant, and a queen was dead. Think about the people around you, the ones who know your moods, your habits. What would they say if someone asked them the right questions? The eunuch didn't lie, he just spoke. And that was enough. When Herod executed his own sons, Augustus heard about it and said something historians never forgot: that he would rather be Herod's pig than his son. Because as a Jew, Herod never killed pigs. The emperor of Rome pitied his children. Marianne had 5 children with Herod. 4 survived in the record. The 5th didn't. He died young. In Rome, no accusation, no trial, no explanation. Just silence. Behind every accusation against Marianne was one person. His sister, Salome. Marianne had humiliated her, publicly, pointed out her inferior bloodline, in a court where origin was everything. That's the insult you don't forget. Salome didn't, she just waited for the right moment. First accusation failed, she waited again. Second one worked, she never raised a sword, she just talked. And she outlived them all. By the end of his life, Herod knew the truth, his people hated him, so he made a plan. He gathered every noble in the kingdom, locked them inside the hippodrome, soldiers at every exit. One final order, the moment I die, kill every single one of them. So the kingdom would be forced to mourn. His sister ignored the order. Nobody died that day, except Herod. And then there was the disease. Modern doctors believe he suffered chronic kidney disease, complicated by Fournier's gangrene. His body was rotting, while he was still alive. Worms, fever, unbearable pain, for months. He spent his life deciding who would suffer. And at the end, something decided for him. Make of that what you will. Archaeologists found a rock inscription in Jordan, carved by an anonymous nomad. 4 words. The year Herod died mad. Nobody said it better. The day Herod died, the people of Judea celebrated. Not mourned, celebrated. His grandchildren ended up governing more territory, and for longer than he ever did. The dynasty he built with blood outlived him. He just didn't live to see it. He never got what he wanted most. Not power, not legacy, just to be loved. Herod wasn't born a monster. He was born afraid. Afraid of losing power, afraid of not being enough, afraid of being forgotten. And everything he did was an attempt to control that fear. It didn't work. So here's the question, how much of what we do comes from the same place? If this story stayed with you, subscribe. Because next, Agrippina and Nero, a mother, a son, an empire, and a story even darker than this one.